I hope you're finding all the information that Family Cafe has gathered for you to be helpful. I'm sorry that we cannot be together during this presentation, but hopefully next year will be different. I'm also going to apologize in advance if you hear one of my four-legged coworkers making any noise during the presentation. We are keeping this from our individual homes, so noise control could be a challenge. Hopefully not. Hopefully they'll nap and ignore us. But today's presentation of Let Us Help You with Your Vision for the Future is a joint presentation between the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation and the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. Our focus is on sharing information about VR and APD, I'm going to use the initials, and how the agencies can work collaboratively together to provide information primarily on supported employment. I'm Jan Pierce, a program administrator for VR, and our other presenter is Kirsten Lee, Senior Management Analyst from the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. Contact information will be provided at the end of our slides, and we welcome your questions and comments. Please feel free to follow up. So moving on to slide 2, we wanted to share just a basic overview of available services and supports that can assist you with additional information about supported employment and a few related services. We're going to share who's eligible for these services and how you can apply for these services. Kirsten is now going to share information on the benefits of employment and why we feel employment is an important option for all individuals. Kirsten?
Thank you. This is Kirsten with APD. It's great to be with you today. First, we're going to look at the benefits of employment. Both APD and VR recognize the benefits of employment as a priority for both agencies. The first benefit of employment is being self-sufficient. We support people who want to work so that they can become more self-sufficient with their money and choices. Having income will increase your independence, and people who work are typically more self-sufficient and they relate easier to other people. The second is relationships with other people in the community. Employment will allow more opportunities for social activities that build relationships with other people in the community. Another benefit is inclusion in community activities. Having an income allows you to choose activities and other social events that may interest you in community activities. Another benefit is better health. Research has shown that employment has social, psychological, and financial benefits that improve the overall health of individuals. Another benefit is increased self-esteem and self-worth. That is a very important benefit of employment, and it allows an overall improvement in self-esteem and self-worth. And finally, success. Employment gives the individual a sense of purpose and meaning, which in return provides them much success in life. I'd like to read from you a message that we have from Thomas Perez. Now, he says, employers have recognized for some time that it's smart business to have a diverse workforce, one in which many views are represented and everyone's talents are valued. Well, disability is part of diversity. The next slide that we're going to look at today is for employment to be a success, we need to work as a team. Here are some examples of our teamwork between vocational rehabilitation and the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. First, APD support coordinators. This service of advocating for the individual and identifying, developing, coordinating, and accessing supports and services on the individual's behalf, regardless of the funding source. Next is other providers. APD works with local communities and private providers to support people who have developmental disabilities and their families in living, learning, and working in their communities. Next is VR counselors. VR counselors assist individuals in determining if they are eligible for VR services and what services may be of benefit. VR services are individualized. The counselor and the individual work together to determine an individual plan for employment. The counselor also works with approved providers to support and deliver the selected services that the counselor and the individual have selected together. Next is employment specialist. An employment specialist will develop appropriate job placement services to meet the client's individual needs. Job coach. A job coach provides training and support to a client who is employed in a competitive integrated work setting. And last is natural supports, friends, your family, and acquaintances, people who care about you and are willing to support you without being paid. Teammates have your back, so if you fall, you'll always have people to help you back onto your feet. Quote from Will Clark. And next, Jan is going to speak about who is VR and APD.
Thank you, Kirsten. While VR and APD collaborate, they are different agencies. So a little bit more about VR. VR is a state agency that receives a blend of funding from federal funds and state funds. This allows VR to offer services to around 50,000 people a year. VR has a variety of service, but its mission is to assist eligible individuals to pursue careers of their choosing. The service we'll be highlighting primarily today is supported employment and a few other related services. Kirsten, would you like to share information on APD?
Yes, thank you. The Agency for Persons with Disabilities is a state agency that supports persons with developmental disabilities in living, learning, and working in their community. APD works in partnership with local communities and private providers to assist people who have developmental disabilities and their family. APD has also been delegated by the Agency for Healthcare Administration, also known as AHCA, to administer the day-to-day operations of the Florida iBudget Home and Community-Based Service Waiver, also referred to as the iBudget Waiver. These services allow persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities to remain in the community while receiving supports for activities of daily living, personal, medical, and dental care. In Florida, about 35,000 individuals receive these services. Now, Jan is going to give some more information about VR.
So VR serves individuals with a wide variety of disabilities. We don't have a specific list of qualifying disabilities. A VR counselor works with individuals to determine their eligibility. And to do this, the disability must provide an impediment to employment. The individual must be able to benefit from the services that VR can offer. For supported employment, there's an additional requirement that the individual must have a most significant disability. VR can provide employment services as well as assisting individuals in gaining training and education that will help them on their career path. Services are focused on assisting youth and adults, but always with the goal of eventual. Now, Kirsten's going to discuss APD's criteria.
Thank you. The Agency for Persons with Disabilities annually serves more than 50,000 Floridians on the iBudget waiver and the waiting list combined. APD provides services to Floridians with autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, intellectual disabilities, Prader-Willi syndrome, spina bifida, and Phelan-McDermid syndrome. The Agency for Persons with Disabilities also serves children between the ages of 3 to 5 who are at high risk of developing a developmental disability. Now, Jan's going to be able to tell how VR can help next.
Okay, thank you. So VR's role is to assist eligible individuals in obtaining employment and enhancing the opportunity for independence. So VR counselors work closely with individuals and they provide guidance and counseling to assist individuals to assess their own strengths, skills, and interests in order to plan an individualized plan for employment. The goal is to develop a pathway to an enriching career path. Training, education, and a host of other supports are available to support this important goal. VR has some broad parameters that basically, if a person needs a service or support to be able to work, VR can provide it. An example might be that if a person needed some time-limited medical services, VR could assist if that helps that person on their way to employment. We aren't a medical program, but we can assist if it's related to employment. So Kirsten, it's your turn again.
Thank you. Here are the ways that APD can help. The role of APD is to identify individuals who have expressed a desire to work. Next, we assist with the referral process to VR. If VR is unable to serve the individual, APD will then assist the individual with job placement. APD will provide the medically necessary and community-based services that allow the individual to work at or above minimum wage in a fully integrated community setting. APD will also help by providing ongoing employment supports for the individual to maintain their current job. The next slide that we're going to go over is APD's iBudget waiver services. This slide is about the services that APD provides on the iBudget waiver. The Florida iBudget Home and Community-Based Services waiver is an option for persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities to receive home and community-based services as an alternative to intermediate care facilities for individuals with intellectual disabilities. These services also allow persons with intellectual and developmental disabilities to remain in the community while receiving support for activities of daily living, personal, medical, and dental care. And again, in Florida, we serve about 35,000 individuals that receive these services. Individuals enrolled in the iBudget waiver should receive services that enable them to have a safe place to live, to have a meaningful day activity, such as companion, supported employment, and adult day training services. Also to be able to receive medically necessary supplies and equipment, such as consumable medical supplies and durable medical equipment. Also to receive transportation required to access necessary waiver services. On this slide, you'll see a list of all the services that are available to eligible waiver enrollees. These services must be prior approved and determined medically necessary before they can be provided. Now, Jan is going to talk to us on the next slide about work.
Thank you. So this slide really says it all about VR. We're sharing a lot of information, but I just want to focus on that VR is all about work, work, and more work. Work of all different kinds, all different people. It's employment focused. It's based on, there is an eligibility criteria, but I've mentioned that it's people that want to have a job, who have a medical or physical disability that interferes with their ability to become employed on their own, and they need some supports. And that we're a federal and state partnership. So it's very important to the state of Florida to have our agencies available for individuals. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you. So VR services, I mentioned that I couldn't just put them all on a slide. There are a lot of services that VR can offer eligible adults and youth, but the slide gives you an idea of the depth of our services. The services provided are designed to meet the unique needs of the individual. What services are provided very much depend on the needs and desires of the individual. Some individuals may only need a few of these services, like career counseling and job placement, job counseling. Others may need a whole host of services, and all of that is individually determined. An individual plan for employment that we mentioned before is developed by the individual and the VR counselor. Together, they're going to identify the appropriate services. While our focus today is on supported employment, I wanted to note that there are services that can be helpful when people are trying to identify their career paths, such as discovery, on-the-job training, work-based experiences. VR also offers other employment services for individuals who do not need as intensive supports as we're talking about today. And again, VR can assist with training and education that are focused on development of a career. Kirsten's now going to share information about our state's commitment to employment.
Thank you, Jan. Florida working together to make employment an option for all. Both APD and VR are both committed to employment. We are grateful for the relationships that we have together and bringing all this information together to you today. This is one of most importance. The Florida legislature enacted the Employment First Act in January of 2016. As such, Florida became an employment first state. The Employment First Act provides the official framework for a long-time commitment to improving employment outcomes for individuals with disabilities in this state. The Employment First Act became law in January of 2016. Going back to October of 2013, Governor Scott signed an order mandating the creation of an interagency cooperative agreement among specific state agencies that provide services to individuals with disabilities to ensure that the continuation of the long-term commitment improves the employment outcomes for persons with disabilities. APD and VR are two of 11 organizations that form part of this interagency cooperative agreement for the Employment First implementation. All of these agencies are now working together. We're sharing resources. Our agencies are communicating on a continual basis. We're sharing best practices. We're also involved in mutual training. This next slide is about competitive employment approaches. Group-supported employment approaches include an enclave model. A small group model working at a company's work site can be persons in the enclave work as a team with training, supervision, and support provided by a job coach or supervisor. Next is a mobile work crew, which is a small group model that works as a distinct unit and operates as a self-contained business, working at several locations within the community and under the supervision of a job coach. The type of work usually includes janitorial or groundskeeping. Next is the small business model. Within a small business, there may be up to 6 employees with disabilities, but not more than the number of employees without disabilities. The small business operates like any business, generating work and paying employees from revenues received, and the small business is located within the community. The next approach is individual supported employment. Supported employment is a way to move people from dependence on a delivery system to independence via competitive integrated employment. The next approach is self-employment and supported self-employment. Working for oneself with direct control over work and services undertaken and can be included micro-enterprise arrangements. Those would be proprietorships, partnerships, and corporations. Last is job seekers who select supported self-employment contribute to the development of a business service product or perform a core function of the business. Now, Jan, you can go up, please go ahead and share your slide on VR.
Okay, thank you. So VR requires that all employment be competitive and integrated. And by that, I mean individuals need to make the same wages as other individuals that are working in the same jobs, and employment takes place in a community location. We've discussed that the primary service we're highlighting today is supported employment, and Kirsten shared some about that. So I'm just going to add, it is designed as a unique service that supports individuals with the most significant disabilities. VR only supports the individual model of supported employment. VR provides the supports and services needed to help someone find a job, to do well at the job, the training they need to be successful, and when the individual's doing really well on the job site, our partner agency, the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, will step in and provide the long-term supports to ensure continued success. VR also supports self-employment and supported employment, which is a very unique service for people interested in starting their own business. VR funds a group of specialists to help with writing a business plan, developing an implementation plan. From beginning to the end of a start of a business, VR can provide supports. Customized employment is another employment option, and that's where an employment specialist assists an individual in working with a business to create perhaps a new job that might not have existed before, or pulled apart and develop very specialized duties to make that job very individualized to meet the person's need and to meet the business need. So youth services, we already mentioned that we provide a variety of youth services that help them plan for and develop a career. VR starts working with youth ages 14 and above. On the job, training and work-based learning experiences are very important opportunities for youth and adults to gain skills and explore potential area of employment interest. That way they can see the kind of jobs they like, and maybe they thought they liked something and then found out when they actually tried it that it was not for them. So that's kind of basically the competitive employment approaches. So we can go on to the next slide. So I wanted to share that, you know, your career, your option, that it is very individualized, and we want people to have and to be able to develop the services they need so that they can move ahead with their dreams and their career path and designing that movement forward. And the more people know about themselves, the more they take ownership of that process. So we really expect the individuals we work with to be very involved. It's not that they come sit in our office and we make a plan and tell them this is what you're going to want to do. And there's a quote by Elaine Hall about exclusion elevates all. And we really feel like when people and workplaces are diverse and include people of all disabilities, that it makes it a better workplace and a better society. So now Kirsten's going to share additional information about APD.
Thank you, Jan. Your decision to work. Once an individual expresses an interest in getting a job, it's important that they identify the following. First, the kind of work that they would like to do with the help of their family and their paid supports. They need to determine if they are ready to start making money and if their income will affect their benefits. They also must consider what will happen to their health insurance coverage or Medicaid. Both VR and APD employment coaches are there to assist the individuals when making and guiding them through these decisions on how to access SSA, Social Security, work incentives. Our next quote is from C.S. Lewis. Every disability conceals a vocation, if only we can find it, which will turn the necessity to glorious gain. Our next slide is continuing on about supported employment. Supported employment services provided under the iBudget waiver consist of training and assistance to help support an individual in developing and sustaining paid employment at or above minimum wage in a competitive integrated setting. The provider assists the individual with the acquisition, retention, or improvement of skills related to accessing and maintaining employment or developing and operating a small business. With the assistance of the provider, the individual receives help in securing employment in an integrated community setting according to the individual's knowledge, skills, abilities, supports needed, their desired goals, and planned outcomes. And Jan, you're next with VR.
Okay. Thank you. There's some important things to know about supported employment. We kind of talked about some definitions of what supported employment is, but I wanted to share that it is a collaborative responsibility. VR and APD both have responsibilities to provide supported employment services to individuals with most significant disabilities who wish to obtain employment. So we work together to make that happen. VR's role is to provide phase one services, which those are the initial intense services that assist individuals to prepare for and obtain employment. VR supports jobs that I mentioned that are real jobs in a community location. The jobs must pay at least minimum wage and must be an individualized job. VR works with providers like APD does to provide assistance to individuals when they're applying for jobs, preparing for interviews, helping people learn how to dress for success, developing resumes, and other work readiness skills that go into helping people get that first job or that job. So once a job is located, then the employment specialist, or some people call them job coaches, they work with the employer and individual to provide the training that they need for success in that job site. They can work side by side with the person to help them learn the job. They can help the coworkers teach them how to do the job, whatever works best for that individual. So VR also ensures that individuals have those ongoing supports that are needed by working with our partners, such as the Agency for Persons with Disabilities. VR doesn't want to assist people to get a job and then say, okay, great, you're doing a good job, and then walk away and leave them. They may still need supports. And so we make sure, working with partners, that when VR is ready to say the case is ready to move over, that there's someone there that's going to step in and help. So Kirsten, it's your turn again.
Thank you. Now I'd like to tell you about the role of APD for phase two. Phase two is defined as long-term, ongoing supports needed to maintain employment indefinitely. These billable support activities include the following: ongoing, systematic contacts with supported employees to determine the need, intensity, and frequency of supports needed to maintain productivity, social inclusion, and maintain employment. Remedial on-the-job training to meet productivity expectations, consultation and refinement of natural support or other elements important to maintaining employment. Related work supports such as accessing transportation and other supports necessary for the recipient to maintain a job, or consultation to family members or other members of a recipient support network, including their employers and coworkers. Our next slide we're going to go over is the Employment Enhancement Project from APD. The legislator and governor appropriated $900,000 to APD for fiscal year 2019-2020 to provide supported employment services to individuals who are on the APD waiting list who would like to go to work. For each person who participates as a job seeker in the Employment Enhancement Project, also known as EEP, APD will allocate funds to provide the following services: supported employment coaching to secure a good job match, supported employment follow-along services to help retain the job, assistance with transportation needed for work for a limited time, and finally, securing internships and paid internships as pathways to competitive integrated employment. Individuals meeting the criteria in any Florida county may be considered for participation in the EEP project. The intent is for APD, local school districts, local workforce career centers, and other collaborating agencies and organizations to work together to assist young adults who are leaving school and others who are currently on the APD waiting list to secure competitive integrated employment. Next, Jan, is your slide. Thank you.
Thank you. Something that we get quite a few questions about and that you may have heard about is the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, 511. Put into place it's a law that impacts individuals who may wish to participate in sub-minimum wage. So youth under 24 must now apply for VR services and complete some requirements before they're eligible to pursue any sub-minimum wage employment. And typically you see sub-minimum wage employment at some sheltered workshops or some day programs. The requirement was put into law to ensure that youth know what their options are before choosing this type of employment. It just provides education and opportunities so they can make some informed choices. It also requires that even adults who are in sub-minimum wage employment, that they're provided career counseling services so that they're aware of employment options. It's trying to encourage people to take that step out and pursue competitive integrated employment, but it is a choice. Another requirement is for VR and APD to work together to develop a memorandum, let me say that right, to enhance services to mutual customers that both agencies have in common. And again, it's all about that collaborative effort between our two agencies. So Kirsten.
Thank you, Jan. You've got your next slide.
Oh, sorry. So if you're interested in more information regarding VR services, today we just gave you really a broad general overview of some services of interest, but please check out www.rehabworks.org. It's on the screen for additional information. You can find out about our programs, eligibility. Most important, you can find listing of all of our VR offices within the state, their addresses and their phone numbers so that you can look for the one that's close to your house or the phone number to call. You can also call our 1-800 number if you need assistance in locating those offices. You can call and make an appointment so that VR can let you know about the services and help you determine if it's what you're interested in and what you're eligible for. There's also a very simple referral form on that website that we've talked about that you can fill out and send in, and then someone will call you to make an appointment so that you can come in and talk about the services. So please check out the website and please feel free to call us, ask us questions. Usually, at the end of a session, we share questions and answers, and unfortunately, the virtual world doesn't allow that, but we care about what you need and want to find out about. So feel free to reach out and we will be glad to help you. And now Kirsten's going to share some information.
Thank you, Jan. If you're interested in more information regarding APD services, please check out our website. We've got apdcares.org. You can find a listing of all of our APD offices with addresses and phone numbers there. You can also reach out to us on our toll-free 866-APD-CARES. There's also an application that we have listed here online as well that you can use. On the next slide, I'll show you all the information for Jan Pierce and also my information for Kirsten Lee under APD. Our last slide, from all of us at the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation and the Agency for Persons with Disabilities, we are excited about your future. Thank you so much for allowing us this opportunity to be with you today.
Thank you.